Dragon's Dogma 2 is a game with so many amazing skills, and some that leave a lot to be desired. So today I will cover what I consider to be some lackluster skills and give a realistic way that they can be improved if applicable. As in, my suggestion won't change the core identity of the skill and won't take a massive rework. We're going to start with the main skills, then move on to core skills, and finally the augments. Skills. Starting with the skills, these are going to be the main moveset of your Arisen and Pawns. Windstorm Slash. Windstorm Slash is a skill that, when activated, allows you to perform consecutive slashes with increasing speed if each attack is timed correctly. My initial thoughts when unlocking this skill was that it would become a staple of my moveset. However, I quickly learned just how redundant it really is when I noticed it is just a slightly better version of the Chain of Blows core skill on Warrior that does the exact same thing. Only the core skill doesn't consume stamina and doesn't take up a skill slot, leading to its inclusion on this list. The way I would fix this skill is to increase the timing window for the attacks, as at top speed you're almost guaranteed to continuously miss until your stamina is completely drained. Shadow Veil and Visitant Aura. I'm going to group these two together as they both have the same flaw in my opinion. They both seem to be stealth focused skills in a very much not stealthy game. There are literally no situations where I could see these being useful. Not to mention that they both require stamina to be drained while using. So here are what I would fix specifically for each. Shadow Veil would have the stamina drain removed, but Shadow Veil would be deactivated upon attacking. So then this skill could be useful in situations where you can't afford to fight and want to slip past enemies without your stamina being drained from sprinting on top of the drain from the skill. And as for Visitant Aura, having the stamina drain removed is the first part. But secondly, the range at which Visitant Aura can be used needs to be increased. It's almost laughable how short range it is. And finally, for the photo mode, I'd like to see if the smoke version of you would disappear when Remove Arisen is turned on. Revivify. Revivify is admittedly a very cool looking skill, and that was almost enough for me to keep it equipped. But with a mage in my party or just a couple of curatives in my inventory, it seemed a bit pointless to waste a slot. So simply my fix would be to increase the amount of time the effect lingers after using. And personally, I would really love if the aura stayed on you for a while as well, because it looks really cool. It kind of reminds me of the aura on Thief's Maester skill, and I would be excited for more skills that add this sort of effect on us. I want to feel like I'm going Super Saiyan! Moving on. Decanter. Decanter is a sorcerer's skill that saps health from a target and gives it to the user. This skill is cool but easily replaced if just one mage is in your party, as Anodyne heals far more consistently and mages are very valuable regardless. This skill is almost good enough on its own, as it's one of the only ways sorcerers can restore their own health. To make this skill more user and team friendly, I would suggest one of two things. Either allow the health sapping to be directed towards allies. This would allow forward attacking party members to benefit from this spell. Or another way this skill could be modified is to make it a more passive skill. As in, when cast, the user doesn't need to maintain the spell to keep getting health, although the amount would be smaller than if the sorcerer maintained the spell. Core skills. Next up are the core skills. These are meant to fulfill the fantasy of your vocation, and are mostly actively utilized. Steeled Foundation. And out of all the skills in this game, this core is by far the one I'm most disappointed about. Using your shield to cushion your fall is probably one of the most Dragon's Dogma things in this whole game. But sadly, this core skill does next to nothing to prevent death from falls. It is barely noticeable and it's really disappointing. So obviously the fix would be to just improve what it already does. I really want to be able to use this one, and I can't see it messing up anything in the game, as I don't recall any situations where if I was able to jump a very far distance and survive, it would allow me to cheat the system. Footpad. Footpad is the thief's core skill that allows a wall jump. Pretty thiefy, huh? Well, it is meh. The jump barely ever works when I want to use it in my experience. However, I do play on console, so maybe the controller makes it slightly harder to perform this consistently. But I would like to see an improvement nonetheless, to give this core skill some ease of use. If Footpad allows for a longer or indefinite amount of time to choose your direction to jump after connecting with a wall, it would make it a much better core skill, since you'd actually be able to see and choose where you want to go much easier. All in all, this core skill is in a similar boat to Visitant Aura and Shadow Veil. It just doesn't seem to have a good place in Dragon's Dogma's gameplay. Footpad seems like a skill that is useful for platforming, but platforming is seldom seen in Dragon's Dogma 2. In my opinion, the double jump from DD1 was much better for this, and platforming was much more common in that game as well, so it served a much better purpose. Focused Bolt. This shit is so weak! It just needs a damage buffer, maybe allow for a guaranteed debilitation activation. Shit, that sounded like a rap. Depending on the element of your staff, the debilitation can be activated almost 100% of the time. Augments. Finally, we arrive at the augments. These are very minor, which is why I saved them for last. They're all passive and you can simply avoid the bad ones, but there are still a few I could see being better or erased from reality. Provocation. Provocation is the augment that causes enemies to target you more. But why would you want that? In what scenario would you ever want to be targeted by enemies? You can't be revived by your pawns, so this augment really only makes sense to put on your pawns. I don't have a way to fix this one. I just fucking hate it. Stasis. Stasis slows the degradation of items in your inventory. Slightly useful for things like the Medusa head, but ultimately, if you have any items that you would like to maintain the state of, I'd suggest putting them in your storage. Stasis is cool, but I don't think it does enough, especially when compared to other much more useful augments. If I had to do anything, I think it would be cool if Stasis could affect only one item at a time, but completely pause its decay. I mean, that's what Stasis is. It doesn't just mean slowing something down, it means a complete pause. Opulence. And finally, our final augment. Opulence is the skill that grants more gold when picking up gold coin pouches. I wonder by how much it increases it by. Let's see. Doing the math. Plugging in the numbers. What? Only 5%? That's freaking nothing! Firstly, what does this have to do with Mystic Spearhand? Shouldn't this be on Thief? Mystic Spearhand was created specifically to kill dragons, so what does that have to do with gold? Maybe it's because dragons are known to hoard gold and it's like, when you kill the dragon, you're getting its gold? That's the only explanation I can possibly think of for this. But secondly, 5% is so small, I sincerely hope nobody has ever actually used this augment, in terms of getting gold. Finally, the fix I could come up with is I would just much prefer it to just give better rates at stores. Or, if it wouldn't be too much, just make enemies more likely to drop gold as loot. I think that'd be a perfect fix to this, and make it far more useful. Outro! Blah 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 blah. There's the list. Do you agree? Which skills do you hate? How many of you died to fall damage after testing Steeled Foundation? Because I know I died. Some of these skills have so much potential, so it's really sad to see them in this state. And I hope Capcom still has plans to update this game because these can really use the help. But anyways, that's all for now, and see you guys next time.
Bye bye.